at least once or twice a week, I get a message out of the blue from somebody asking if I will make a recommendation to an exotic car transporter, and I answer categorically that I do not recommend any of them because the incidence of bad outcomes is just too high in the industry. It's not that there aren't good truckers, good drivers, good companies, good equipment that take good care of their loads, but just the risks are extremely high. And if you've been around the industry for the last 6 to 12 months, you will have heard of these theft scams where people believe that their central dispatch accounts are being hacked into or whatever may be happening, and somehow these cars are going missing during transport. But I wanted to talk a little bit about that today because it just continues to pop up in everyone's feed, and I've learned a lot as I've done some research and talked to different people that have had their cars stolen, that have somehow been able to find them, and generally understanding exactly how it works. Now, the first step is understanding why there is a vulnerability here. And when I do offer any advice about how to transport your car, generally what I say is the bigger companies are safer. It doesn't mean that they're foolproof. Bad things still happen, but if you're talking about reliable horseless carriage ply car, these companies that have like nationwide advertising campaigns, usually better things happen. However, most of those companies book their loads out 2, 3, 4 weeks, months at times, because they have set trucks, set routes, and things like that. And generally, the industry has to have more immediate access to car transport. Dealers are buying cars, moving cars, selling cars. Not everyone can go pick up something and drive it across the country for a road trip, although that is the safest way to do it. And so this has to exist. Now, those shorter demand loads generally get dispatched on what are called load boards. And the most popular one in the exotic car world is called central dispatch. Now, there's also one called super dispatch. And the way that these work is that you post that you need this vehicle moved from this zip code on this date to that zip code, and generally once you send it out there, your phone will explode. And so one of the most miserable parts of my job when I was working at Lamborghini Atlanta was actually dealing with this process, because as soon as it's out there, you cannot do anything until you dispatch that load. Now, when I was doing this on a daily basis, which was, I guess, 8 to 12 years ago, I generally knew that things were pretty safe because I was using this all the time. If somebody inquired, you ask them, what they're going to be hauling it on, make sure that it can kind of accommodate the load angles of some of these low ground clearance cars, make sure they've got enough insurance, ask them to send it to you, check on it, and things like that. And then you just tell them exactly where the car is with an address and a contact and a phone number, and then where you want it dropped off, and then generally everything goes to plan. But over the last 12 months or so, things have not gone to plan. And more often, hundreds and hundreds of times lately, this has worked where somebody dispatches a car and no car ever shows up at the destination. And the initial thought had been that these people's central dispatch accounts were being hacked. And that is in fact not precisely what's happening. And I want to walk you through exactly how this is currently going on. What's happening today is that these bad actors will find trucking companies that have gone out of business, and they will contact the registered agent of the defunct or closed down corporation or LLC, and they will contact them to buy their MC number or their motor carrier number that allows a company to transport things across state lines. So that's the first step, and generally you're able to buy these numbers, which do have an application process, for like $2,000 or $3,000, and the person selling them isn't using it anymore. That's a reasonably legitimate practice to see happen. But then they will take that MC number and form a new LLC in a different state under the same name, get a new DOT number, and set up a new account with Central Dispatch. They may actually orchestrate some loads that move successfully, and one of the reasons they're able to do that is through something that is called double brokering. So that means that this company will accept a load. They'll call you and say, hey, I can pick up this vehicle under the time frame that you've proposed. I can get it here on this date. That all sounds good. The person shipping the car dispatches the load to that company. But that company may not own trucks or anything like that, and their intention will be to actually rebook the load using a different account. They themselves couldn't be seen on there to be posting the exact same load to somewhere else, just like they're trying to create some kind of profit spread in the deal, but they will use another account, generally acquired in the same way, but acting as a broker on Central Dispatch or Super Dispatch, they will post the same load and get the car moved. Potentially, this could happen over years. They might accumulate some good reviews, but at some point, they will begin stealing cars. And so what will happen is let's say you sell a car as a dealership or you buy a car as a dealership. You post where you want the car picked up and where you want it delivered. Someone calls you, they say for a very good deal on very good equipment with good insurance and everything else that they can accomplish what you're asking for. You assign it to them, which gives them usually the VIN of the car, the exact pickup address, the contact, the phone number, all the things that they would need to show up with a dispatch form from Central Dispatch to collect your car. Now, hopefully, the person who is letting the car go will check all these things, but because this process is so accepted, so standardized, and so customary, it's very easy for a porter to just go out, toss the keys to the trucker that they've been told is going to show up, and then go right back inside scribbling on some kind of a bill of lading or the form that kind of connects the condition on pickup with hopefully the condition on delivery, the person giving the car and the person accepting the car on the other end. So what happens is they will then log out of Central Dispatch, log back in as the second company, or do it on a different load board site, and they will post the same pickup address with the destination of wherever they want the car to be stolen to be delivered to. And that's where another actually legitimate trucking company will see this. It's usually at a very, very high price relative to what it would normally cost to move a car from what was expected to be a long way across the country, but they're probably only proposing to move it a state or so away. And almost always the car will then be going to Los Angeles. Now, the primary targets for the thieves right now, although you'll see it across all sorts of exotic cars, are SUVs like Uruses, Cullinans, G-Wagons, G63s, things of that nature. And so if you post one right now, there is a near certainty that you will have an inquiry, hopefully that you'll weed through and not end up selecting, of someone who is trying to steal your car. And so you'll have told whoever the car is being picked up from that there's going to be a truck that shows up at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Please let them have it because they're going to bring it to me. But they will have already gotten somebody else that doesn't know anything about the fact that they're transporting a car to some thieves. They will show up at the same time, pick up the vehicle, and you'll never see it again. And usually, especially if let's say that you're trying to ship a car out of Scottsdale all the way to Georgia, you may find that you wouldn't expect it for 3-4 days. They're going to get it to Los Angeles the next day, and you won't even be inquiring about where it's missing for, a couple days after it's already been stolen and being driven around. Now, when you think about exotic car thieves, your first thought is export or parting the cars out. But that doesn't seem to be what's actually happening. What appears to be happening is that these people will pay a few $1,000s to have a car transported to the Los Angeles area, and they'll have it dropped off at a few different types of addresses. Sometimes it was the actual shop where things were going to happen and the car was probably going to be sold very quickly. More often than not, though, it is a very generic address, which again is not a wildly uncommon occurrence. If I'm trying to ship something to my house, I know that large trucks can't get here. And so I will then tell them, hey, let's meet at this Walmart, let's meet down the street, let's meet near Ferrari of Atlanta, which isn't far from my house, because I know that trucks are accustomed to the routes in and out. And so a lot of these cars have been delivered along main dealership rows in these parts of LA. People don't think that's strange because they're delivering cars there all the time. And so they show up, there's somebody obviously expecting the car, they go up, take the keys, sign the bill of lading, and they leave. Now, in some cases, the truck drivers responsibly have taken delivery photos, which will capture different parts of different people that might be involved with the pickup. They should be getting IDs and stuff like that. But again, this is a business where speed is important. They're trying to get the cars unloaded, do so as safely as possible in the middle of busy intersections and stuff like that. And so not everything that could be done always gets done. And so what appears to be happening is that somebody has probably already sold the car at the point that it gets picked up. So within 24 to 48 hours, the car is already gone. Not exported, but probably sold to a local buyer in Southern California who then has the next phase of the plan. So these cars that are being, probably sold for 10 to 20% of what they ought to be worth, sort of just disappear as do the thieves. So over the next few days, the rightful owners of the car will most likely report them stolen to wherever they think they might be now, and the process sort of begins. But they've probably already been sold. In many cases, they'll then be re-VINed, get fake titles, wrapped different colors, disassembled, and sometimes they will get exported, but that's not generally, it seems, done by the original operating thieves. So the question becomes, how do you avoid this? And the real answer is make sure that you are actually dealing with the trucking company that is going to be picking up your car. And so make sure that they are not going to be rebrokering this load to someone else. Make sure that hopefully you've actually heard of this company or used this company before. And it really is incumbent on these load boards to stop some of these brokering practices, because that is the key part of the vulnerability. Somebody who has no attachment to either party is somehow becoming involved in these car shipments. It's a great idea to contact the trucking company and have your company listed as a beneficiary of their policy. Obviously, you want to make sure that whoever is turning the car over knows to check all aspects of the shipping order, the dispatch order, and the bill of lading to make sure that it is going to the right destination. Talk to the trucker. Make sure he knows where he's going. Make sure you have his direct phone number. Make sure you have pictures of the vehicle that was loaded, the truck that it was loaded on, the trailer, the tags, the stickers, all of these things. And these should be standard practices, but again, dealerships and sometimes owners are shipping so many cars, so many places that it can be very, very hard to keep track of. Now, if you do start to realize that your car isn't where you thought it should be, it is important to act as quickly as possible. Figure out if there are any tracking devices either from the original manufacturer, installed by a bank, installed by a previous owner, and start trying to find out exactly where the vehicle is. After that, you need to contact the police in whatever jurisdiction you believe the car is in or headed to. They will probably not help you very much. This is happening all the time, and the people that I've spoken to that have had cars stolen are not having great outcomes or great luck. Sometimes the cars have an accident, they get impounded, and things like that happen, and eventually you do find out who should own this car, but the criminals have gotten quite intelligent about this, and they know where not to leave the cars, what to do with them, and how to move them as quickly as possible. Rewards are very powerful, and social media is very powerful. My advice is always to offer as high a reward as you could possibly justify, and do so in a very easy to share graphic, shared as an Instagram post, story, Facebook post, things like that, prompting your followers to share as widely as possible. There was recently another red 812 GTS that was recovered in exactly this way. The more people are looking, the more people know, the more likely one of these exotic car spotters will happen upon the car and let you know where you might be able to uncover it. I also recommend that you get a duplicate key ordered for the car as soon as possible. As soon as you can get a title, get it to an authorized dealer, get another key in case there is a circumstance where you know where the car is. You may not have the second key or anything else with it, and you can, if you have to, overnight that, fly somewhere, be boots on the ground to take the car back by whatever means you have to, because these cars are headed far away very fast. But as always, buyer beware, be as careful as you can, check on everything, and when in doubt, just go road trip your car home. Today's video is brought to you by Somo. Sotheby's Motorsport is one of the fastest growing online auction marketplaces for collector cars and exotic cars. I've sold several of my personal cars on Somo and had great experiences every time. I sold my GTC4 Lusso, a 1976 Rolls-Royce, and a 6-wheeled Range Rover, and all of the transactions went really smoothly. From submitting the car all the way through the auction to the final bids and everything else that you want, they managed everything to make sure that the auction went as perfectly as it possibly could. They talked to me, they talked to the bidders, and everything worked out wonderfully. I know that you'll love them as well. So whether you're looking to buy a car or sell a car, check them out now at the link in the description below and find your next car on Somo.